You know what it's like. You're ready to promote from within. You found someone, let's say on a dev team, a junior team, you want to promote, you have a great candidate, but now they need new people skills to be effective, right? And this is super hard to learn how to do, especially if they haven't had prior experience, or if maybe it's a different team altogether. So we'll talk about what are the core skills a new leader should be focusing on mastering, what's the best way to do that. But even before that, I want to even go first step, which is, why do we need newly promoted leaders? So from within, again, need to learn new management skills. Why is that even necessary? And what happens if they don't do it? And what happens if they do? What's your experience? And why do we need to help these new leaders to do that?
Yeah, that's super important question. And thank you for bringing it up, because I think we don't really, sometimes we're not even aware of why is it so important? What's the impact on the person, on the leader, on their team,
Right.
on the business level? I mean, it's super huge. Let me start with, what if we don't? What if we don't teach them these skills? We could have been lucky, the person has them inside them, so they're already a leader within, so they knew, they've copied already other leadership behaviors, they're able to demonstrate, they had the skills from their previous job, so we're lucky. That's the number one thing. Yeah. You cannot count on that, of course, you need to see, but it can be. Let's say that they don't have the skills, nobody teaches them, it doesn't come like this for them. So what happens? What I see, the number one thing that happens is dissatisfaction. The people are not satisfied anymore with their work because they were doing the things were working perfectly. They are doing and things are collapsing everywhere around them. So there's a lot of dissatisfaction. That's the first thing. That it's not cool because it leaves a bitter taste in your mouth. Like, as an employee, you finish your work, you close your laptop, and then you're like, okay, not so happy. So yeah. Workplace happiness, dissatisfaction, this is one thing. And the even worse, to my opinion, is burnout. So this is something that you see it, and I say it and immediately get goosebumps, because it's a pity. Because what happens if you are a leader and you don't know how to demonstrate leadership skills, and you used to be a great employee, a great person, is that when you get in the leadership role and you don't know how to delegate, you don't know how to support your people, you feel responsible for them. And you take all the guilt. Oh, I'm still having goosebumps. So you take all the guilt, and then you say, oh, my team member Lena and my team member Dan, they didn't do their thing. My direct reports, they were not performing. I will work more. I will do their job. I'll work until 10 o'clock in the night in order to take over their tasks. Nobody's going to say thank to you, because they're like, these are things that you shouldn't do. But slowly you get burned out, because you take the workload of like the whole team at the end. So like there is the effects can be really nasty. They can be really nasty.
Yeah, and not only just for the person, because of this, you're a high performer, and then all of a sudden this new thing, you're losing it, and so you covered that. But I also wanted to ask, when you've worked at companies and helping them figure out these topics, I would assume as well that it also impacts the people that now they're managing in terms of morale, possibly even retainment. I'm sure a lot of people out there have had a manager. You're like, oh my gosh, this person never had a manager. I don't even want to work here. There's, you probably heard the phrase of, we don't work for the company, work for the manager. And I would assume that someone who doesn't have those leadership skills, even if they were amazing before and they didn't get that, they never taught that, you're gonna hurt on turnover, you're gonna hurt on employee morale, even beyond just that newly promoted person who's getting frustrated. It might be increasing, turnover overall, right?
Indeed, yeah. You're completely point over there. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, this is a very, 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 very important topic, because especially if you're going to be promoting within, and even if you come in externally, you need to train those skills. Which brings us to really the next part. It's very clear you need to teach these skills. So what exactly are those skills? What's been in your experience, Lena, what are the core skills new leaders should be focusing on mastering? How does it change between the different stages of companies? And going further, what are then the best ways to potentially go about doing this? So you can lay out a few ideas, and what should be focusing on? Are there core skills that you could say are across like scale ups or enterprises, or are they different, and how so?
In my experience, they are not. I mean, I've been working with very small organizations. I mean, let's say 300 employees, but also with super big organizations, like millions, I have to say, of employees across across the globe. So the key skills that they need in a small leadership program, I don't mean like the extensive versions of them, they are basically the following. They are coaching, so how to get coaching skills, not to become a coach yourself, but to be able to have the skills to ask questions, to delegate, to work with your team. So that's one thing, coaching. The second one is feedback. How can you really give good feedback, to the point, feedback that is not disengaging the other person, but also feedback that is not covering the negative things and bringing only the positive ones. Then we have, I lost my words. Oh, yeah, of course, difficult conversations, because as a leader, you have to make a lot of difficult, uncomfortable conversations, let's put it this way. And the last but not least is resilience or self-leadership. I think it used to be more like self-leadership in general, like as more of like a general way of working. So learning about yourself, to be self-reflective, yeah, to be a bit more autonomous and everything. But due to the pandemic, the last years, I see that resilience became a big part of this self-leadership. So I would say self-leadership with a big focus nowadays due to the pandemic and the after effects of the pandemic that has on everybody. Resilience, so how can you really, the definition of resilience is simple, how can you bounce back? Because difficult things are happening, of course, but how quickly can you bounce back? How easily and how comfortably can you get back on track?
Those are four definitely very important soft skills, right? Leadership soft skills. And what we found too, is when you try to teach these soft skills, it can be very difficult. I mean, let's just say if you're starting, you want to teach, let's say you're going to promote a few people within, and how do you teach that? Where do you even start? Especially because you're looking at soft skills. If I want to learn how to do feedback, for example, do you watch a video? Is there a course? Is this a case for, you know, someone, maybe potentially a coach or a mentor would come in and teach these skills? How would a company in different stages do it? Like, I would love to hear what you think, starting from, let's say, a startup, let's say 50, or that 300 mark is a great one, where maybe it's a small people team and they're looking to implement it because they know it's an issue, all the way up as we go up. How does that change, and what are some places people can start?
Let's take different cases. So let's say the company of 300 people, of course you have an HR, you have a department. It's a small department. You have one HR, two HR people, and best case scenario, depends of course on the organization, you have one L&D person. So of course, this project cannot be carried internally. But what can be done in this case is that they have an external vendor, and this external vendor supports the whole process. It can be a combination with support with an external vendor and also some asynchronous materials, like for example the initial leader library that you're having, or LinkedIn Learning. So a combination, or only one of these two solutions. Let's say, I will say in my case, as an external vendor, then I'll go in, and depends on the budget, on the time frame and the urgency of the situation, we would give workshops and training courses for these four super skills or master skills that they are needed. And after the workshops, always there are follow-ups, there is synchronous material, prompts, messages on Slack, on email that can support people. So this is a way to go with a small organization. Now, with a bit of larger organizations that I've worked with, they have, of course, large L&D teams. They have L&D departments in every region and everything. So there I mostly support them to design, or most of the cases we talk about large organizations, so they already have something in place. So I support them redesign their programs. So first we look back, what works, what doesn't work, and then start creating material for their internal leadership programs. I mean, the programs they're going to be internally carried from their own trainers. And then I do a lot of trainers. So we make sure that the trainers are able to facilitate this kind of workshops and e-learning materials on their own.
So you're saying you're actually training the people who are now training those leaders, those new leaders that we're talking about. You're doing the training, correct?
Yeah. I love it. I adore it. I think this is where I want to go in the future, to do a lot of train the trainer, because I've done it in the past a lot. Is my master's is all about train the trainer, so I know that I have this perspective, and it's simply adorable.
That's amazing. I got a few questions from the leadership side, because you've done it. You've trained these new leaders. how long, if someone says, okay, you know what, this makes a lot of sense. Well, we tried e-courses, or, we went online, we have some supplementary material, but it sounds like definitely bringing in somebody, it could be a definite option to people should be definitely considering, right? At least a company, especially at 300, it's definitely worth it. How long does you think it takes to go from, let's say we're brand new hired or brand new promoted to, let's say they have a level of skills, of people development, of people skills that they're, you would say they're at a good level or a very competent level? How long have you found that it can take? And what's like the fastest way to do it? Is it cohort? Is it role play? What have you found that's been working really well?
What works really well is to take in account that different people have different preferences in the way that they like to learn, they like to interact. What really works is to not bombard people with, let's say, with one full day of training, and then they have like no headspace for anything else. And then the next topic comes in, and the next and the next. So I think this is what the pandemic taught me personally. I have to break things down to design them over a course of like 2-3 months. At the best is to give, let's say, a workshop. I'm sorry, the duration of the workshop depends, of course. It's everything, it's should be tailor-made, in my opinion. And then you give them space to apply the skills. You give them space to practice. You give them space to really come back next week and say, okay, this doesn't work, or this works very well, and let's yay, successes, or I don't feel comfortable still with that. And also follow up after a couple of months as well. So that would be my preferred way.
Okay, makes sense. One topic too, when we talk about your preferred way or what you represent, let's say someone wants to do it or a team wants to do it. One thing that we keep saying when we talk to L&Ds, people teams, is how do we justify it? And what's the business case behind it? So I'd love to hear, in your experience, like Sue said, you went to a company at 300 today and I think, okay, we're looking at the budget for next year. We're going to dedicate, X amount, and someone's about to make a case for a new leadership development program, or at least for new leaders. In your experience, what have you seen after, a company going from, let's say, having maybe nothing before, they're just starting to working with you or working and developing this new leader program? What have they seen on like a KPI, either an improvement in retainment, maybe it's satisfaction, maybe it's a better performance overall? What's the big metric where stakeholders that we're always trying to justify to, they go, wow, that was worth it?
I think it's job satisfaction. At least this is what I've seen the most. It's really job satisfaction, because with the KPIs, you can also measure it, but maybe at a bit of a later stage. So as you know, I made a transition to the corporate environment the past year and a half. So I think these are results that I'm going to be getting slowly now. But job satisfaction is something that I see, a better performance also, much better performance, happier teams as well. It's something that I see more and more. Yeah.
Which is likely, definitely going to very likely have a high chance of affecting retainment, turnover, which is definitely a big value factor overall for a company.
Yeah, you know it yourself, but also there's a lot of literature that proves that of course, retaining like talent, maintaining talent, making sure that the talent feels good at your organization so they don't leave you, which is super important. It's something that already there are quite some reports from Forbes, from where else. I've seen it really a lot around. So